Hi, welcome to my brick oven lifestyle. Today we are going to be making cornbread in the brick oven and yummy chili. We're going to be making that over an open flame in the fireplace. Let's go get started. What goes better with chili than some cornbread? So I'm going to show you a recipe that I like. It has a little bit of a sweetness to it, a little bit more cakey, and we'll go ahead and try this recipe and see if you like it too. First of all, we're going to use 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1.25 cups of yellow cornmeal, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix these dry ingredients together. I like to use a whisk when I mix them together. That looks good. All right, now we're going to mix some of our wet ingredients together. I'm just going to set this bowl aside for a moment. Get another bowl out. I have a stick of melted butter. And with this, I like to use a spatula. And a 1/2 cup of sugar. Mix that together. 2 eggs, I've already whisked them. And a cup of buttermilk. I like to use the real thing. You can substitute. I think it comes out a little bit better with the real buttermilk. Add that in. Now I'm just going to stir that up. Mix the wet ingredients. Has a nice buttery smell from the buttermilk right now. And then we're going to take our dry ingredients and add these in. I like to use a spatula when I'm mixing the wet and the dry ingredients together. You don't want the mixture to get real smooth. You're going to leave it a little bit lumpy. And with the whisk, it just kind of gets stuck in the whisk, so I prefer the spatula. So I'm just going to keep mixing this together until it's still a little bit lumpy. All right, that looks pretty good. Again, you don't want a real smooth batter, so you want to leave it a little bit lumpy. Okay, next step is going to be putting it into the cast iron skillet. So I'll get that ready. All right, to make it a little bit easier to pour it, since I'm using these skillets with the individual wedges, a little bit easier way to pour is to put it into a measuring cup or something that has a little spout to pour with. Helps keep stuff where it's supposed to be instead of making a great big mess. I'm going to pour some batter into each one of these spaces. No more than half of the space should be filled with the batter because they're going to rise. So let's just start going. All we have to do is just smooth that out a little bit. Managed to not make a really big mess. So I'm going to take a little napkin and just clean up the edges before I put it in the oven. All right, that looks pretty good. Time to put the cornbread in the oven. Our temperature is right around that 350 range where you want it to be. gonna set the timer for about 25 minutes, but we're gonna check it several times just to make sure, because it's probably gonna cook a little bit faster. And we probably won't need the full 25 minutes, we'll see. Alright, so now I'm gonna just turn them a little bit. They look like they're cooking really evenly. Looking good. Just all the way around because they're getting a little bit more golden color on the back end, so it's just a little hotter back there. I'm gonna go ahead and do the toothpick test, and it's coming out nice and clean. So these are done, ready to come out. These actually cooked it took about 18 minutes to cook these instead of 25. It really depends how you have your fire set. And these just didn't need it quite as much time, and that's why you always check what you're cooking and make sure that you're not overcooking it. Here's your cornbread. So let's break it apart. Oh, perfect. That's what it looks like. It's very light and cakey. Let's taste it. It's got that cornbread crunchiness to it. It's got just a little bit of sweetness too, and it's light and very moist. These are going to go really good with the chili, which is what we're going to make next. So before we start our fire in the fireplace here today to make the chili, I wanted to show you this metal swing arm that I have and how I use that over the fireplace. So this is what the swing arm looks like, and this is how it sits, and it just swings back and forth like this, and it has these holes in it. And then inside the fireplace I have these little hinges that the swing arm is going to go on. And I have 3 of them because it gives me a way to adjust higher or lower where I want my swing arm to be. So I'm going to show you how they fit on. First I'll put it on the upper one. It's always better to do this before you start a fire. Oops. So when I put it up like this, it's going to give me a farther distance from the fire, and sometimes I can use it that way. What I'm using for the chili is a 5-quart Dutch oven with a lid. So if you wanted to hang it, you can simply put it up here on the way this handle is made and just have it swing like this. You could adjust it to where you want it to be over the fire. So now I'm going to move it down to the lower setting. So again, I could hang it down here, but what I like to do with this Dutch oven is it's got the spider legs on it, which is really nice because I can set it top of here. When I turn it and position it, I can get these legs to make contact in all the different sides here of the metal to keep it more stable. And I kind of like using it like this, and that's how we're going to make the chili. Then I use once, you know, the fire's going, it's going to be really hot. So what I use is my little poker stick, and I swing it back over the fire wherever it is. If I want it hotter or colder, I can use the poker stick to move it around, keep my hands away. Then when I want to pull it toward me, I just use this side of the poker stick. And that way I never really have to touch anything with my hands. And then the other thing too, I notice sometimes it might try to swing forwards a little bit more than I want it to. I can just stabilize it. I'll just actually leave it like that. Or I might scoot it back farther and just hold it in place with my poker stick. So that's handy. All right, now let's get the fire started, and then we'll start making our chili. I got my fire nice and hot. I've had my Dutch oven on over the fire for about a half an hour. I'm just trying to get it really nice and hot. So I'm going to check it. There's a little trick you can do to see that it's very hot. So I'm going to bring it forward. Took the lid off. But what I like to do is just spritz a little bit of water in the pan and see if it sizzles. That means it's very nice and hot. All right, I got my kettle off of the stove now. We're going to check the temperature. About 400 degrees, and what's nice about that now is I can put in my onions and my cut up sausage. So I'm just going to add that to the pan, and it's actually going to start cooking. So I don't actually have to cook this over the fire. The pan is now cooking the onions and the sausage, and I just want to brown it before I add the other ingredients for the rest for the chili. Let that sit for a few minutes. You know, maybe up to 5 minutes. I'm just going to cook this real quick. Should start to smell good pretty soon here. I'm just stirring occasionally so nothing gets too browned. So it's partially cooked here just with the heat of the pan, and now I'm going to put it back over the fire just with the lid off of it, just to cook a little bit longer, get a little bit more browned. I'm going to use my poker stick just to hold it in the exact place I want it to be. Should start hearing that sizzle again from the sausage and the onion. Alright, looks like the onion and the sausage is cooked brown just like we want it to be. I'm going to take this over now to the table, and we'll start putting the rest of the ingredients in for the chili. So we got our onion and sausage cooked just about right. Now the bottom of the pan has a nice layer of, just a little bit of oil, which will add to the flavor of this. So what I do is put a can of a chili mix bean in. This is our personal favorite of chili, and it's easy. Now you can use your own favorite recipe, and this one is just the one that we enjoy. And it's a lot of times you don't have a lot of time too, so it's nice with this recipe that you can just grab some cans of beans and tomatoes and put it together, and your chili is ready just in a few minutes here to put into the fireplace. I like to add a little bit of color to it too, so I like these Great Northern beans. They taste good and they make it look kind of pretty. And then the last thing I put in is some cheddar cheese soup. We like a little bit of a cheesy taste in our chili, so I add that in. And that's all there is to it. Now, we already have it partially warm because the pot is so hot. We're going to put it over the fire. I'm going to get it warm. If you had guests here, you could move it back and, move the pot back and forth to cool it down a little bit, warm it up a little bit. It can sit over the fire for quite a long time, but make sure it doesn't start to burn. Just move it over so it's not burning. Or when it's done, just take it off and eat it. I'm going to put the lid back on while I cook it. I'm going to get my gloves on so I can pick this up now. I just have to jiggle it around a little bit to make sure that my legs are where I want them to be to help secure the pan in there the way I want it. Now it's ready to go. I got a nice hot fire. And we'll leave that on for 5 minutes or so, and then we'll check it and stir it. Let's check and see how it's doing. Get a lot of ashes. It's one of the reasons why I like putting a lid on. It's cooking very nicely. It's just important to check it once in a while and make sure that it's not getting too hot or that it is warm enough to adjust it over the heat. It's starting to steam, so it's, it cooks pretty quick when you get it over a hot open flame. Put the lid back on. Put it on a little bit longer, but really with the flames that I have here and how hot it is, it's really not going to take too much longer. Let's check the chili. Oh, it is nice and hot. And at this point, it is definitely done. Now, if I wanted to keep it warm, I would just put the lid back on and just keep it away from the flames. But I'm going to go ahead and bring it over to the table because we're going to serve some up. I'm going to take the cornbread out. I was just warming it up a little bit, waiting for the chili to get done, so I just popped it in the brick oven. Warmed it up, and I'm just going to put it back into my bowl and cover it with a towel. So my cornbread cooled down a little bit more than I wanted it to, so what I did is just simply plop it into a cast iron dish, set it up on my swing arm, warm it up real quick, and then it will be nice and toasty and just the right temperature for the chili. Now let's put it all together. Smells so good. And then, as an added little touch, we cut a little slit into the cornbread just to present it on the side of the bowl. And like the brick oven lifestyle, please feel free to subscribe so we can send you new videos and updates.